La la la.
It's all about expansion, expansion, expansion until it overreaches and then collapses. Well, we're now the pendulum is swinging and it's expanding, and it will continue to do so unless it's stopped. So I'm afraid I think it's that sort of classic failure of political leadership to really listen to what is going on and to accept the unthinkable.
This is a conversation with General Richard Shirreff. General Shirreff was one of the highest-ranking commanders in the British Armed Forces and a second-in-command in NATO, and he has been warning of the Russian threat long before it became mainstream. In 2016, after he left the military, he published a book called War with Russia, a fictional account in which Russia attacks Ukraine and afterwards continues to invade the Baltics. A book that was meant as a warning of what's about to come. In this conversation, we talk about why he was one of the few people who saw the threat years before everyone else, why would it be extremely dangerous to underestimate the Russians, and how prepared is NATO really for a Russian aggression. Thank you to everyone who supports this podcast on Patreon, because you make this possible, and thanks to everyone else for listening. And now, enjoy the conversation. Great. Well, so welcome to the podcast.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Dominic.
So, you were one of the highest-ranking British military commanders. You were second in command in NATO, if I can put it that way. And after you retired from the British military, you published a book, which I read back then, and I loved it. And it's basically a warning in the form of a fictional story in which Russia decides to invade the Baltics and manages to basically successfully pull it off. And I think it's really interesting how the way you described the Russian threat back then as sort of an existential threat is now basically mainstream in Western, Eastern Europe, in media, and think tanks, in the government. But I remember reading it back then when it was published in 2016 and thinking that it was wildly different to what anyone else was even suggesting at the time. And my question to start with is, why do you think you were so ahead of the curve with this warning? And is it because you were able to see this danger and things in general so clearly, or because of most of us were so blind to it? Because I remember when I was reading it in 2016, even I, as someone from Eastern Europe, a country previously occupied by Russia, thought that this is quite far-fetched.
I wish I could give you a clear answer to that, Dominic. I don't know about whether I was sort of forward-thinking, particularly, but I do remember there was a fair amount of skepticism when it came out. I remember the book when it was reviewed by the Times, for example. It was absolutely hammered, pulled to pieces. And I can also remember the then Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, Philip Hammond, being quizzed on the morning BBC flagship radio program, the Today program, by John Humphreys, who was one of the most hard-hitting of interviewers, who said, "What about this book written by this retired general saying there's going to be a war with Russia?" And Hammond, at the time, Foreign Secretary, so you would think he would be in command of the latest intelligence and assessments, said, "I don't know anyone who thinks like that." And he poured scorn all over it. What I will say for myself is that I think I saw things as they were. And I don't claim any particular insight there, but I particularly remember the morning after the day that Crimea was admitted into the Russian Federation, which took place on the 18th of March 2014, with a big ceremony in the Great Hall of the Kremlin, at which Putin made a speech. And I had an English transcript of that speech put on my desk the next morning when I was still serving in NATO's strategic headquarters. And frankly, reading it sent a shiver of horror down my spine, because it led
Oh boy. Mentor. Humble tip of the hat. Thank you for the follow. We're taking everything and selling the fucking tents anyway, so.
Ну чё, начало дня уже неплохое.
seems. Gotta go through anyway. Man, fuck you, AI scav.
Сейчас тут всех закошмарю, я тебе реально говорю.
Uh-oh. Go kill him, Sky.
Ну вот он!
Where is he? I hit him.
Ну где ты, а, сука? Я...
He's hit. He's hurt. Come on. Did he die? He dead. Oh, damn, a gazelle? Level 24. Don't care about that. I don't have room in my stash for all this shit, though.
Замочил его!
That's it. We got now. He done fucked up. He done fucked up. Shit. He done fucked us. Who killed him? Am I Cornelio Kun? Why does he have night vision during daylight? Must have found it in raid. You're gonna have an issue though. My stash is fucking full.
Laid out in that speech what he intended to do. I mean, almost in the sense, I'm a historian by background and academic training, and history remains one of my absolute foremost interests. I think if you'd read Mein Kampf shortly after it was published, after Hitler's spell in the Schloss Landsberg, the Landsberg prison, you'd have probably felt the same thing, because he laid out what he intended to do. And I think there are so many parallels, I'm afraid, between Hitler and the Second World War and what Putin is doing to Ukraine now and intends to do as well. So I listened and read what Putin said, and it made it bloody clear that that he intended, if you press the spring, it will push back. Something you should remember, quote unquote. And so I think, and I don't think I was that alone, because there were many certainly in the Baltic states. I remember being asked on Latvian TV in about 2012 or something, do you think there's a threat from Russia? And at the time I said I didn't think there was a threat from Russia. And then I began to get to know the Baltic states well, and particularly Latvia, because where I went quite a lot. We ran a series of exercises every year in Latvia, in NATO, and I, on one occasion, was taken by the Latvian Chief of Defense Staff, General Raymond Scriber, to the Latvian Joint Command Center. And he showed me the latest incursion of Latvian airspace by, I think it was maybe 13 Ilyushin 76 transport planes, capable of carrying airborne troops, who would push up to the Latvian border, track up the Latvian border, and then just go round to intimidate. So, they certainly felt threatened. And I think that speech of the 18th of March removed the scales from my eyes. And I felt that NATO needed to wake up and really, smell the coffee, to use the cliche.
I think it's really interesting that basically what you're saying is that you've listened to what Putin was saying and you've actually believed him. And I wonder, why do you think that for so long so many people listened to the same speeches and the same proclamations of not just Putin, but the entire Russian elite and leadership, and sort of brushed it off as a proclamations for the domestic audience that none of them would actually mean seriously. And I wonder, why is it that you took it seriously, but most of the Western leadership decided to just sort of look away or brush it off as rhetoric that's never going to lead to action?
I think I had my first wake-up call in 2008 when Putin invaded Georgia. And here was the return of, to quote Bismarck, of iron and blood to the politics of Europe. And I think, having then moved into sort of, then accepted the received NATO's strategic wisdom and judgment that Russia should become our most strategic partner, then when Russia, and I was in and out of Moscow on a pretty regular basis, discussing actually with General Gerasimov, who was initially the vice chief of the general staff. So my opposite number. I had a number of meetings with him. And the whole purpose of those visits was to build confidence and understanding with the Russians. And I realized pretty quickly in those meetings that we were talking past each other completely. We were interested in Afghanistan and ISAF mission, and the Russians were not. They were focused they were focused on where they were going. And so when we saw the invasion of Crimea, as we did, and then people started talking with great knowledge about the Gerasimov doctrine, I realized that we in NATO had got it badly wrong. We didn't understand the Russians. Nobody at any stage in the NATO intelligence structure had said, I think you should read this stuff about that Gerasimov is producing about undermining the integrity of a state from within. Because we then saw that superb, a really professionally done operation to annex Crimea. Why didn't other people, or at least key leadership, do it? I'm afraid it's the classic human condition of hubris, of complacency, and of failing to learn the lessons of history. And we've got to be so careful with this, because, as Mark, I think it was Mark Twain who said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure rhymes. It's that recognizing what could happen. And of course, it did not. The potential for an invasion of Crimea, an invasion of the Baltic states, a resurgence of Russia, such as we've seen, just didn't fit into the narrative at the time. there was an assumption, I still think, that somehow Russia was, people will remember the rusting submarine hulks of Murmansk after the collapse of the Soviet Union and the turmoil of the 1990s. And there was no sense, I think, that here was a state bent on, in a sense, avenging its humiliation. And any understanding of Russian history, we have to recognize it's all about expansion until it overreaches and then collapses. Well, we're now, the pendulum is swinging and it's expanding, and it will continue to do so unless it's stopped. So I'm afraid I think it's that sort of classic failure of, political leadership to really listen to what is going on and to accept the unthinkable.
So let me fast forward a couple of years and jump to February of 2022. And to the day when the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the full-scale war began. And I wonder, what did you think at the time? And if you've maybe had a feeling of sort of certain vindication for your warning finally being visible for everyone to see, and in a form that no one could really ignore anymore.
I knew it was going to happen. It was absolutely clear it was going to happen. And actually, our own British Minister of Defense and the Americans were saying this is going to happen. So, it was no surprise.
Oh, really?
When that first phone call came at, 5:30 in the morning on the 24th of February from the BBC saying, can you get on the Today programme? What did I feel? I'll tell you honestly, Dominic, I felt frightened. I felt real fear that, my children and my grandchildren are going to have to face what my father fought in, and maybe your grandfather and you coming from the Czech Republic would have, your family history will be full of the blood and the ghastliness of 1938, the Sudetenland, and then following on the Second World War. And I just had this awful sense of horror that same horror was about to be vested on our generation, my children's generation, and my grandchildren's generation. No vindication. No, I told you so. Not at all. It was, oh my God, this thing could get out of hand so badly. And maybe we are looking at the start of what becomes another major war in Europe involving Russia and then the whole of NATO. I
definitely want to talk about the possibility of that and the risk of that, and whether that fear has gone away or not. But I think before that, I'd still like to look at what you basically wrote in the book and the scenario that you've depicted, and then what we've seen in 2022 and onwards. Because I've actually read your book when it came out in 2016, and then I've reread it in 2022 after the Russian invasion. And one big difference between what you wrote about and then what ended up happening was that in the book, the Russian invasion of Baltics is actually preceded by an invasion of Ukraine, which in your book falls almost immediately, and then Russia continues further. And that, now we know, obviously didn't happen. And I would be wondering if you were surprised to see that.
I was surprised. I think most people were surprised by three things. Number one was how, I think we all knew, I certainly knew the Ukrainians were going to fight like tigers. That didn't surprise me. But what did surprise me was the way they inflicted defeat on Russia. The Battle of Kiev was a resounding success for the Ukrainians. And then subsequently in 2022, the offensive northeast of Kharkiv and the liberation of Kherson. I was really surprised by the resilience and ingenuity shown by the Ukrainians. I was surprised by the way the West responded. And Britain should take credit for the way in which, ahead of the game, really, it forced America's hands and forced others' hands by the supply of handheld anti-tank weapons, NLAW, handheld anti-aircraft weapons and the like. But the third surprise was how bad the Russian army were. And it's interesting. I had a view of the Russian army. I knew that they had gone through a program of intensive reform after 2008, the invasion of Georgia, where there were many, many tactical blunders. But I didn't expect them to be as bad as they were. And I think what we saw in 2022 was an army that had not expected Ukraine to resist in the way it did. I've spoken to I remember discussing this with a senior intelligence chief in Kiev who said that the Russians had assumed that the march into Kiev would be like the march into Prague in 1968, something close to your heart. That this would be like exactly like, I think they called it the Czechia plan or the Cheka plan on that basis. That it would be yes, there would be some resistance from brave locals, but there wouldn't be the sort of resistance that Ukraine put up. But we've got to be really careful about that because the Russians learned lessons. And they're learning lessons now, and they have learnt lessons now, and therein lies the problems that we face at the moment. But I was surprised by how Ukraine did not collapse. I thought it would ultimately, that the government in Kiev would be overthrown, that the Russians would install a puppet government, and then I thought we would see the mother of all long-running insurgencies as the Ukrainian underground fought back. But thanks to the leadership, and we have to give credit to the leadership of President Zelensky and the courage and ingenuity of the Ukrainian armed forces and Ukrainian people and the absolute determination to fight, that swift collapse of Ukraine did not happen. And therefore, I think, my scenario, if Ukraine had collapsed pretty quickly, this is what, going back to my fear when I heard the news, was that a NATO state would be next, and therefore NATO would be plunged very quickly into a war with Russia. That did not happen in 2022.
Well, you sort of led me to my next question, which is on the performance of the Russian military, because as you said, in the book, you sort of emphasize how the Russian military has transformed from the chaos in the 1990s to a effective and combat-ready force. And I assume that was based on the intelligence and analyses that you were getting when you were in NATO and in the British military. And then the performance that we saw was quite different, especially in the first stage of the invasion. And I wonder if you think that we as NATO have actually been overestimating the Russian military, and whether now we might be perhaps in the danger of underestimating it, on the other hand. Because sometimes the takeaway from Ukraine war is that, actually, the Russians are not a threat because look at how incompetent they have proven to be in Ukraine.
You're absolutely right with your last comment. And that is something I really worry about, because I've heard that sentiment emanating from the British Ministry of Defence. The Russians are busted flush. They're incompetent. They've been fixed by Ukraine. We don't need to worry about Russia, so let's spend our money on sending British aircraft carriers to bob around in the Pacific and address the issues of the Asia-Pacific region, which is, to my mind, strategic nonsense. I think we both overestimate and underestimate Russia, and I think we probably still continue to do so. Overestimate the skill and ingenuity of the Russian ground forces, because they continue to mount mass human wave semi-suicidal attacks. We saw it last winter in Bakhmut, and we're seeing it this winter in Avdiivka and the like. No thought of economy of force or precision, just launching human waves of untrained infantrymen mobilized without any real training and sent into the front line to be slaughtered. But at the same time, we must never underestimate Russian technical ingenuity. The way they've turned this into, the way they've matched the Ukrainians' ingenuity, and in many ways the speed with which they counter Ukrainian ingenuity in terms of data, forgive me, the data-driven battle, use of drones, the way they shield. I read a piece the other day about the way they've shielded some of their ballistic missiles against thermal decoys and the like. So they are really, they are clever when it comes to it, when they need to be, and they continue to be. And so the so what out of all this is that if Ukraine is to defeat Russia, which it must, and we'll probably come back to that later, Ukraine is going to need the combined ingenuity and genius of all its partners in the West and elsewhere to support it with the right, to find the right technical solutions to outmatch the Russians.
I think we're definitely going to be talking about that Ukraine needs to defeat Russia and how that should be done, and also the ongoing Russian threat. But before that, I wanted to dig deeper. And as someone who has decades of military experience, what do you think is or was the main reason for the incompetence of the Russian military that we have seen, especially in the first few months and weeks?
Hello, Ultraviolet.
And do you think that they have managed to improve their
I
performance
hope you're doing
Ukraine
well
over time?
I think what you saw in the first few weeks of the war in 2022 was a reflection of the Russian state, which is kleptocratic, it's corrupt, and fundamentally incompetent. And that applied in the armed forces. So spares, all the logistics riddled through with kleptocracy and corruption, and commanders not telling it as it is to their commanders because they know that it's not going to reflect well on them. And I think a force that never, because it was complacent about what it was going to do. I think also they didn't know what they were going to do. They were mobilized and sent to sit on the border with Ukraine without any clear instructions.
I'm going to have to get wood
and
today.
Just sat there throughout a long and cold winter. And the equipment suffered and the maintenance suffered. And when they had to move, then of course, it showed. But ultimately, the competence of any military force is about its leadership. It's about the quality of its people, the quality of the training, the quality and depth of its logistics, sustainability, and the quality of its equipment. On all those counts, the Russians failed.
I think moving further, and we'll come back to Ukraine, but the exact same scenario that you described in the book. So a Russian attack on NATO country, most likely in the Baltics, following the invasion of Ukraine, has really been getting a lot more attention in recent weeks and months, and we've seen really unprecedented statements from many senior commanders in Europe, many senior politicians about war with Russia being a real threat in the following years. And I wonder, as someone who has written about it years sooner, do you still think that a war with Russia or a Russian attack on NATO is an imminent threat, and how real it is given the losses that Russians have suffered in Ukraine? And if it is an imminent threat, how close do you think we are potentially to something like that happening?
It all depends what happens in the Ukraine war. If Ukraine defeats Russia, then
15 scavs. Where am I? Oh no, I'm here. Shit. That's north. That's south. I think I know where I am. God damn it. Not good. Dude over there shooting, and I heard somebody moving right here in front of me. Shit. Right. He died. Oh! Somebody else got me though. Fuck! God damn it. Motherfucker must have had thermals. That didn't go well.
Russians.
I think we're definitely going to be talking about the that Ukraine needs to defeat Russia and how that should be done, and also the ongoing Russian threat. But before that, I wanted to dig deeper. And as someone who has decades of military experience, what do you think is or was the main reason for the incompetence of the Russian military that we have seen in especially in the first few months and weeks? And do you think that they have managed to improve their performance in Ukraine over time?
I think what you saw in the first few weeks of the war in 2022 was a reflection of the Russian state, which is kleptocratic, it's corrupt,
You got lucky.
and fundamentally incompetent. And that applied in the armed forces. So spares, all the logistics riddled through with kleptocracy and corruption, and commanders not telling it as it is to their commanders because they know that it's not going to reflect well on them. And I think a force because it was complacent about what it was going to do. I think also they didn't know what they were going to do. They were mobilized and sent to sit on the border with Ukraine without any clear instructions, and just sat there throughout a long and cold winter. And the equipment suffered, and the maintenance suffered, and when they had to move, then of course it showed. But ultimately, the competence of any military force is about its leadership. It's about the quality of its people, the quality of the training, the quality and depth of its logistics, sustainability, and the quality of its equipment. On all those counts, the Russians failed.
I think moving further, and we'll come back to Ukraine, but the exact same scenario that you described in the book. So a Russian attack on NATO country, most likely in the Baltics, following the invasion of Ukraine, has really been getting a lot more attention in recent weeks and months, and we've seen really unprecedented statements from many senior commanders in Europe, many senior politicians about war with Russia being a real threat in the following years. And I wonder, as someone who has written about it years sooner, do you still think that a war with Russia or a Russian attack on NATO is an imminent threat, and how real it is given the losses that Russians have suffered in Ukraine? And if it is an imminent threat, how close do you think we are potentially to something like that happening?
It all depends what happens in the Ukraine war. If Ukraine defeats Russia, then a Russian attack on NATO is not imminent. There will continue to be a threat, and even if Ukraine defeats Russia, we have to assume that Russia will be a humiliated, vengeful, revanchist country bent on avenging its defeat. But it will have been defeated, and that will have massive impact in the Kremlin and shake the foundations of the Putin regime. And the consequence of that will be that it will take a long time for Russia to rebuild its capability. If, on the other hand, and even if it does rebuild its capability, I would just finish that point by saying that Russia will continue to be a long-term threat to NATO and the Euro-Atlantic region. And that is going to require NATO to establish what I would describe as a band of deterrent steel around Eastern Europe, to include Ukraine as a NATO member in order to deter any further attacks or return by Russia to avenging its defeat in Ukraine, because Russia will never give up the idea of eliminating Ukraine from the map as a sovereign state. So that's going to take a generation, if not more so, of long-term NATO deterrence. That's the best case. Worst case is Ukraine does not defeat Russia. The American supply of finance, of equipment, of ammunition has dried up and continues to dry up, and there is no more this year. Europe still fails to deliver what it has promised. For example, the European Union promised 1 million shells by April. So far, 30,000 have been delivered. Yes, European countries have given significant amounts of money and material, which has helped Ukraine avoid defeat, but they haven't and continue not to give what Ukraine needs to achieve victory. Then let's suppose Trump gets into the American as American president and does some sort of shifty deal with Putin, and Ukraine is left hanging. That's going to be much easier for Russia to recover, to rebuild, and it will continue. It will have another go at Ukraine, no question about it, but it'll be in a much better position to do so if by some shabby deal inflicted on Ukraine, large amounts by Trump, large amounts of Ukrainian land is left in Russian possession. And then let's suppose that Russia does ultimately overcome Ukraine because it builds up more quickly its capabilities, rebuilds its capabilities, and Ukraine is left bankrupt because it has not, and without support of the West, because the West hasn't put its money where its mouth is. Then the threat is very, very severe, because not only will Russia finish off what it sees as the job in Ukraine, and it, as I say, it continues to say that it will do so, but then it moves on to other countries in the former Soviet space. Moldova, finish the job in Georgia. And then it'll have a go at the Baltic states, because the momentum of the Putin regime has got to be maintained. And that is the point at which there is a real threat of war between NATO and Russia.
Medicine makes me
because, of course,
really
if Russia
weird.
does have a go at any inch of ground in the Baltic states, then NATO is treaty bound to fight to defend them. And I think this is a real threat, certainly within the next 3 years, if we're lucky.
Let me take a quick break here from the conversation to tell you about my Patreon. I do these interviews in my free time because I enjoy them, but if you want to help me make more of them, consider becoming a supporter. In return, you will be able to ask my future guests your questions, get Patreon-only episodes and bonus content, and watch all the interviews a couple days early and without ads. You can go to patreon.com/decodinggeopolitics or use the link in the description to check it out. But whatever you do, thank you for watching. And now, back to the conversation. I wonder on that note, basically, what you're saying is that the Ukraine is a prerequisite for any potential Russian, for any escalation between NATO and Russia, and Ukraine is the best defense that we actually have, to prevent something like that happening. And I wonder if that should influence our strategic thinking in a way that many European countries are now investing or starting to invest more money into defense spending. But a lot of that defense spending is for their own equipment rather than equipment that would be given to Ukraine. And I wonder if, what do you think on that, whether it wouldn't make more sense to actually prioritize giving even the more modern equipment that we have to Ukraine now, rather than saving it to use by ourselves later on.
I think I'd turn it round and say that what needs to happen in NATO and among European NATO and Ukraine's partners is there needs to be a recognition, and we haven't had this yet, that the war in Ukraine is not just a war by Russia on Ukraine. It's a war by Russia against the West, against NATO, and against Ukraine joining the West. And this is a war that Ukraine is fighting at the moment, but it's a war against us. And we need to recognize that and change our mindset completely and recognize that we are at war. And this just isn't a case of the British government sending £6 billion worth of military supplies to Ukraine and following it up.
It is totally the wrong gun for this map, but I don't care. Where am I? I think I know where I am. Outskirts? No. Shit. Why does it always reset that? That's north. That's south. Fuck. I don't know where I am. Oh, I do know where I am. Shit. Okay, that's a scav. I need to be on stimulant. Did that scav just get taken out? Nope, he's right over here. That should be one. I hear somebody. There he goes. He dead. Come on. Level 52. Where'd his gun go? He must have dropped it in that other bush. I wonder if I can find it. Or should I even fucking bother? I should, because I'm gonna run out of ammo for this gun. Got him! Well. Yep, that one scav did count. Where's his fucking gun? Which bush was he in? I don't know if I can... Oh, this is where he was. This is a level 4. This is a level 4. Now where's your fucking gun, dude? He had an M1. Where's his fucking gun? Where did he drop his fucking gun? He went from there. Where did he drop his fucking gun? Yeah. Fuck! Where did he drop his gun? You little bitch. God damn it. Oh well. I didn't know. Did I just hear something? I do want to find his fucking gun, though. This is a scav. God damn it. There it is. Fuck you, bitch. Yep. I'm gonna take it. big black rat. That ratting didn't go too well for him. Ei morom, joka ihan mitäs tässä? Vähän parempi jo. I'm doing good. A little bit better emotionally and psychologically after that appointment yesterday. We ruled out the thing that was pissing me off about them, like, concentrating on. I need scavs while on sim. I just killed a level 52 and took his shit even though he dumped it. Oh, fuck you. Oh, I just missed that. Now I need to kill it before I run out of this sim. How you doing? Where did it go? And was it a player or a scav? I need scav. Where did it go? There. Where'd that other one go? Oh shit, there's another one too. Where is it? Four, come on. Oh, it's... It's over there somewhere. I never saw it though. I like this M14 whatever. Is it a M1? Oh, already out. Shit, now there's a sniper somewhere over there. Oh, there. And he's looking away. Perfect. Need 11 more. I think I need to finish healing. I also think I need to start making my way to the other side because I didn't bring food. Shit. Did that count? Yes, it did. Oh no, fuck. I don't like all that. Yeah, it is an M1, duh. Discard. No point in carrying around all that weight. 1, 2, 3, 4. Was I just hearing shit over there? And why am I overweight? Did he just exfil? Or is he still there? He may have just exfilled, or he's lying down near exfil. I think he exfilled. Yep, he exfilled. Damn. Yeah, he exfilled. Well, that's at least 2 PMCs off the map. One exfilled and I killed one. I'm sure others have died too. Any scavs? Not seeing any more scavs here. We need to start making our way to exfil too. I wonder, do pain meds count as a sim for this junkie task? I think they do. Milk does, hot rod does, adrenaline does, but I don't know why A pain med would be considered a stimulant. Uh-oh. Did he die? Yep, he died. I think. Yes. 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 Let's see if you have... That's a good gun. That's an okay gun. I think we're gonna do this. And that and that. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take that. We're gonna take... Oh, shit. Maybe I just made a mistake. We may have just made a mistake. Don't care about that. Don't care about that. Care about that. Use that. I'll take those. I want that. We'll eat that. I want that. I need to drink that. Put that on that. Fuck. Fuck. That. Maybe we didn't make a mistake. Really? Oh, fuck the rest of that. Yep, wrong caliber. I need that for a task. We need to go. Now this is gonna be the fucking most dangerous part of this whole thing. Get stuck on a fucking rock. pain med up. Okay, so I've killed 2, I'm 1, and 1 exfilled, so that's 4 PMCs accounted for. Oh. Are those PMCs or scavs? I think where they were and the way they were moving, I think scavs. Fuck it, we have to. It's a little earlier than I would have liked. Fuck me. Where was it? I don't see it. God damn! This thing's got terrible recoil. Fucking terrible recoil on that gun. I think we need like 9 more scavs, but I think we're gonna have to come back. I just heard some scav yell something. Damn it. Timer's running out too. We gotta go. Damn, I gotta go all the way. Fuck. I'm gonna have to do a highlight for this raid. That Keter kicked ass though. I was contemplating going back there to see if there were any scavs patrolling over there, but I think we're just gonna get out and reset. Dope.
It's a war that requires us to mobilize our societies if we are to remain at peace. Part of it, of course, and part of that mobilization, of course, must be directed towards Ukraine. That is the absolute priority, to prevent Ukraine defeat and to give Ukraine the capability to hold the Russians in 2024, while at the same time building up its expertise, its training at the higher formation level, and building up its equipment and giving it the technical ingenuity that I mentioned earlier in order to outface the Russians, so that at the right time and place they can inflict decisive defeat on the Russians, say by making the Crimea untenable and forcing a Russian withdrawal. But all this is going to require mobilization of our states. It's going to require mobilization of the military-industrial complex to churn out the ammunition and the equipment required, not only to stave off defeat in Ukraine, but also to build up our own capabilities. And I'm afraid we've passed the decision point on this, and we're playing catch-up, and we still haven't had the political vision and leadership that is required to tell it as it is to not only the British population, but every population throughout NATO. Less, of course, in those countries most seriously threatened, and I would highlight Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland. But meanwhile, what are we seeing? We're seeing Slovakia, one of the great stalwart partners at the start, now saying, well, not another bullet. Hungary, right there in the front line, as it were, being positively disruptive to Western efforts. And in a sense, pretty near disloyal to NATO and the European Union in that respect. So there's a long way to go. And all this makes that imminent threat that much more likely.
Let me go back to your book, because one of the other themes that it really highlighted was that in the scenario that you depicted of the Russian invasion, one of the things that the Russian invasion revealed was how terribly NATO, and especially Europe, was unprepared for something like that, and how insufficient the NATO forces present in Baltics were, how unable to agree or make a decision the NATO states were, and how not ready for combat were forces of many of NATO
now
members.
The question
and I wonder, hypothetically, if the same scenario would be to happen today. Do you think that the level of preparedness would be higher than when you wrote the book, because there were some positive improvements. We have now some NATO forces stationed in the Baltic countries. We've increased the defense spending by some amounts. I wonder if you think that our level of preparedness today is significantly higher than it was back then.
There are some positives, I grant you that. The establishment of the enhanced forward presence battle groups in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and eastern Poland are an improvement. And of course, air defense in Poland is there in a way it wasn't as a result of the Ukraine war. So there are some improvements. But we have not yet seen that change of mindset that I mentioned that is needed. NATO has been planning hard. Now, at last, they're planning for the defense of Eastern Europe, of the Baltic states and Eastern Poland. There are contingency plans. I'm not privy to them, and I wouldn't expect to be. But plans are no good without the means to implement them. And to implement any form of defense plans, NATO needs the forces needed. It needs. And I don't see any sign of that changing. What I do see, let's come to this country, the British Army now down at 74,000, plans to make it even smaller, and projections, effectively, the British Army numbers are in free fall. And again, there is no political leadership in this country from the present government that recognizes that it's standing into danger. You have the Secretary of State for Defense saying, we are now in a pre-war situation. But what is he doing about it? Precisely nothing.
Well, that was actually my next question, and I wonder if you could elaborate on that a little more, because your book is especially critical to the state of the British armed forces when you're writing it, and you really tear them apart. And I was going to ask if you think there were any positive improvements, and I assume that from your response, you don't really think so. But I wonder, where do you think the British armed forces are going? And it seems to me, as someone who doesn't know that much about it, that there is a strategy of investing heavily in the British Navy and focusing more on the Indo-Pacific theater rather than on the ground forces.
I just don't have
and
the room.
Increasing the size and for example, increasing the size of the tank fleet. So I wonder, from your experience, whether you think that's a good direction, or what's your take on that?
Let me say up front, absolutely, the book was about the appalling way the British Armed Forces have been undermined,
gutted
consistently by governments, certainly since 2010. And I'm very critical about politicians who wrap themselves in the Union Jack and talk about our brave boys and girls, and then do precisely nothing to give them the means to provide the capabilities they need. But one thing I will never do is criticize the quality of the people in the British Armed Forces, which remains second to none. They are outstanding, and they are not treated as they deserve to be treated by their political masters. But what really concerns me is the way that the capability, particularly in the land concept, but it applies to a certain extent in the Navy and the Air Force as well, the capability for large-scale conventional warfighting has been dismantled over the last 2 decades. I fought in a divisional battle in the First Gulf War in 1991. That was probably the last time the British were able to send a coherent warfighting armoured division to fight. It sent a division in 2003 to fight the Second Gulf War, but that was cobbled together, ad hoc brigades, armoured, airborne and commando, not in a conventional divisional size or force. And the problem now, of course, you have a leadership in the armed forces that doesn't know what it doesn't know. You have a sailor at the head who has no conception or understanding of land warfare. And let's be clear, what's happening in Ukraine is a land battle. It's an air-land battle. And we don't have the capabilities that are needed to fight that battle. and it needs to reinvent them because it's not good enough. And you touch on it, and I sort of mentioned it earlier. Again, I continue to hear from the Ministry of Defense the message coming out that the leadership in the Ministry of Defense thinks Russia is a busted flush, and we should focus on building up the Navy and carrier strike and sending it off to bob around the South Pacific, which is just absurd, strategically illiterate. So there needs to be a fundamental wake-up call in the Ministry of Defense as well, and they need to understand the nature of, as Clausewitz said, the first duty of a commander is to understand the nature of the war which he is about to or is embarked upon, and I don't see that happening.
Well, on that note, what's your view on the recent discussion in the UK regarding the potential reinstitution of conscription and the comments coming from senior figures about Britain's armed forces not being ready for war? Do you think that perhaps that's a sign that the wake-up call has maybe happened?
Well, I have played a small part in initiating that discussion, following on General Patrick Sanders' comments about a civilian mobilizing a civilian army, with a letter in the Times, which the Times published last week, saying that now is the time to think the unthinkable and consider conscription. Now, as a professional soldier, my view of conscription was that it was anathema to a professional army. The British Army and Navy and Air Force, but the British Army has a long tradition of long service volunteers, highly professional, with enormous experience, and it has served them exceptionally well. Except, of course, when they were, I'm afraid the reality of the First and Second World Wars was that the professional army disappeared was eliminated at First Ypres. Much of it was put in the bag in the First World War. Much of it was put in the bag and taken prisoner after Dunkirk in the Second World War. And it was ultimately in both conscripts. It was conscript armies which won the war. And when you see a situation where the British Army, as I mentioned earlier, the British Army manning is in free fall, dropping now, well forecast to drop below 70,000, unable to generate the mass required to deliver even a small, a division minus for warfighting, unable to recruit because the demographics and the appeal it offers is still not sufficient to persuade young men and women to sign up. How do you attract the manpower? How do you achieve the manpower levels you need? Going back to our comments on deterrence, to demonstrate a credible warfighting military capability, you have to look at all options. And therefore, as I said in my letter in the Times last week, now is the time to think the unthinkable and consider conscription. And there are plenty of good precedents, and people must understand that when I'm talking about conscription, I'm not talking about a sort of 1950s spud bashing, potato peeling, 2 years wasted time sitting in Catterick for a conscript of the 1950s. Although, let's also be clear, a lot of the conscripts fought in places like Korea with great distinction. I'm talking about a model rather like the Finnish armed forces, a small professional body, but universal male conscription, and a reserve commitment, which allows the Finnish armed forces to go from a professional army of some 20,000 to some 280,000 well-equipped, well-trained soldiers, more than capable of defending Finland and contributing to the NATO alliance. That is the sort of model we should be thinking about. I'm not saying it needs to be done, but the government either has to invest huge amounts in building up a volunteer force or find other ways of doing it. So conscription should not be ruled out.
I think on other topic, there is another war that in the mid to long-term view is potentially brewing, and that could, if it were to happen, would hugely shake up the balance of forces in the world, and that's the potential clash between the United States and China over Taiwan. And I wonder whether that is something that you're thinking about as well, and whether that's something that you're worried about. Because in my, personally, I am, since I would see that happening as a potentially potential window of opportunity for Russia, when the United States would be hugely distracted somewhere else.
Well, it does worry me, and you're right to be worried about it. And again, there's an absolute, irrevocable, unbreakable linkage with what happens in Ukraine. If Ukraine defeats Russia, and the West gives Ukraine the means to defeat Russia, then President Xi will not invade Taiwan, or at least he will back off and think very, very long and hard about doing so. If a shabby deal is done by Trump, Ukraine is forced to throw in the towel, Russia is left with large amounts of Ukrainian lands, and Ukraine is left a broken shell, then I think Xi does invade Taiwan, because he will have seen that Putin launched an invasion and got away with it, and indeed can claim some sort of victory. So, absolutely, there is a linkage. And of course, the other thing that makes it, particularly tricky is that America's focus and means have been diverted towards supporting Ukraine. And Xi will think that the opportunity is there. But I think that opportunity is made much more likely if there is a Western failure. And it'll be a Western and NATO failure if Ukraine does not achieve defeat of Russia.
You've mentioned Trump and his potential upcoming presidency if he were to win this year. And there's also been a growing worry and fear in Europe of potential U.S. withdrawal from European security, and whether Trump might be a reality anyway, as the U.S. focuses more on Indo-Pacific. And I wonder, what do you think, whether that's a real risk that we should really prepare for, and what do you think would be the implications of it?
Again, a litany of disasters. There is you're absolutely right. There is a real risk of Trump, if he gets in as president, pulling America out of NATO. It's no secret that he despises NATO. It's no secret that he said that America would not come to support in his first term. NATO couldn't count on American support if a NATO ally was attacked. And I am 100% certain that he will try it on this time round. Others are more sanguine, but I think we have to think worst case situation. And now, in my view, is the time that Europe should be, in a sense, smashing the glass on the fire alarm, and looking at how it can work towards it will never be able to completely replace American capabilities in NATO, but start making assumptions that it will have to fight without American support. And that brings us back to where we started in terms of that change of mindset and that need for some bold, strategic, visionary leadership from our political class, which is totally lacking.
I think my final question for you, so I don't steal any more of your time, is about the fear that you've mentioned on the night of the morning of the Russian invasion, because I think that I have felt the same fear, and I think many others have and still are, and I wonder if that fear about potential future major, larger conflicts and big war with Russia brewing, if that fear is still there for you now, and at what level would you say it is?
The fear subsided when I saw the way the Ukrainians responded and the way the West responded. And the fear was, in a sense, converted to real optimism as Ukraine launched its counteroffensive east of Kharkiv and then liberated Kherson. However, the West lost an opportunity after the liberation of Kherson. If the West had continued to given Ukraine the means to win the war, then Ukraine could have won the war at the end of 2022, but the
Right.
West did not give Ukraine the
Right.
means, and the Russians were able to dig in deep defenses, and we
Right.
are where we are now.
Right.
I'm not taking counsel of my fears at the moment. I remain optimistic for Ukraine, but I remain very watchful. Unless the West gives Ukraine the means not only to hold and to develop its capabilities, there will be no counteroffensive or a Ukrainian war-winning offensive this year. So what Ukraine has to do in 2024 is survive. It's got to survive, and it's got to build, and it's got to hold, and it's got to build up its capabilities, its knowledge, its expertise, its training, its manpower, its equipment, and its technical ingenuity this year.
God damn it, man.
If that happens, then it can launch an offensive next year. But I tell you one thing, Dominic, the fear will absolutely come back if Trump gets in, because I think then all bets are off.
I think you're not going to be the only one who's going to be worried about that. Well, thank you so much, Richard, General Sheriff. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a great conversation, and I hope we're going to have an opportunity to talk again at some point in the future.
Sure, Dominic, well, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Mag.
Great to talk to you, although I fear we're ending on a pretty gloomy note. But I think, let's finish with a final comment, which is that ultimately, I think we all have to believe in the strength of democracies to overcome autocracies and tyrannies, as has been demonstrated in the past in spade-loads. But they just need to mobilize, and that needs leadership.
Lähetkö aftereille?
Mä pysty, kirjanpitäjä tarvii kuitteja asappia.
Okei. Mä saan noi tehtyä ukkopalvelussa.
No eikä se on niille kevyt yrittäjille.
Nykyään myös yrittäjille. Kukin tyylillään.
Anteeksi.
Ukkoyrittäjä. Kaikki mitä taloushallintoosi tarvitset.
We've made some
While
progress.
global attention has been dragged, it feels, from one crisis to the next, the war in Ukraine has continued with unabated intensity. The transition into winter has brought snows and plunging temperatures, but as in winters past, military action has remained intense and continuous. As in late 2022, Russia held the initiative after the culmination of a Ukrainian offensive, and appears to have decided to use that opening to do basically what they did last time, launching a series of offensive actions at multiple points along the front. The fighting that followed has varied from sustained ground battles around places like Avdiivka through to the drone and missile attacks that exemplify the struggle for the Black Sea. Today, I want to give a broad update on some of those campaigns, asking what both sides have achieved, what we can observe about the fighting, and how well placed both sides are to continue their efforts through 2024. So to do that, I'll start with an overview of some of the recent fighting, looking at some of the major battlefields like Avdiivka, our estimates around visually confirmed losses, and a few observations around changing patterns in the fighting, as well as technical and tactical observations. Then I'll look at two other campaigns, the naval effort in the Black Sea, and what we've seen from the broad air war, Russian missile campaign, and Ukrainian drone strikes. Finally, as I often do, I'll pivot to asking some questions about long-term sustainability, including some of the knowns and unknowns around future Western support for Ukraine this year and beyond. Okay, so I'll start with a quick overview of where some of the serious fighting is taking place in Ukraine right now, and how the Russian winter offensive has developed since we last talked about it. I want to stress I won't be dwelling too much on the fine detail here, both because there are plenty of sources that cover those finer day-to-day movements, and also because if we want to get to some wider observations about the war as a whole, what we really need here is the big picture. As a quick refresher, in our last episode on this topic in 2023, we observed that with the Ukrainian offensive in Zaporizhia petering out, the initiative and choice of next move had broadly passed to Moscow. In a sense, the circumstances had some parallels to the end of 2022. At that point, Russia had mobilized and somewhat stabilized the front after a Ukrainian offensive. They presumably had a choice between focusing on regeneration or going on the attack, and chose the latter. The 22-23 winter offensive did take some territory, but it also expended tremendous amounts of Russian material and offensive potential, a decision which, all else being equal, probably weakened the Russian position in 2023 more broadly. So, a year later, in the closing stages of 2023, after the culmination of another Ukrainian offensive, the Russian military apparently opted to just do what it had done last time, one presumes, expecting a different result. Understanding the why of that decision probably comes back to understanding stated Russian objectives. We often talk about how much internationally recognised Ukrainian territory is currently under Russian occupation. But it's important to remember that as far as Russian law and stated war aims are concerned, there's still a huge amount of what they claim to be Russian territory under Ukrainian control. As far as the vast majority of the world, including countries like China, are concerned, Putin cannot in fact draw a line on the map, put on his best Star Sidious impression and then declare that he will make it legal. But as far as the Russian system is concerned, those lines are law. To control all the territory it claims to have annexed, Russia would have to recross the Dnipro, take Kherson, take Zaporizhia and its region, and, of course, the entire Donbass. And given that, as recently as 20 December last year, Putin came out and said that the special military operation will absolutely achieve all of its set goals, you can understand how much pressure there might be on the Russian military establishment to push forward towards those territorial objectives. So far, though, their offensive hasn't really gotten them closer. Instead, while the fighting has generally been very costly and stressed forces on both sides, significant Russian offensive efforts at multiple points along the front line have only resulted in very incremental territorial changes. What you can see on screen there, for example, are the results of almost 2 months of heavy fighting, with the 1st of December on the left and 23rd of January on the right. At a zoomed-out level, the winter fighting has very much been a matter of meters, months, and munitions. And a quick look at some of the key battlefields should probably give you a sense of the broader endeavour. At Avdiivka, a city which has basically been on the front line since 2014, Russian offensive actions really started to scale up in October, and while attacks have waxed and waned, the offensive is still very much ongoing as I record this. When we last talked about the battle, a lot of the focus had been on the Russian efforts towards the north of the town, where they had successfully seized a giant waste pile, but had been unsuccessful into moving into the industrial area just slightly further south. You probably also remember that at the time, there was plenty of coverage saying that Avdiivka would fall any day now. Suffice to say, it hasn't. Over the last nearly 3 months of fighting, the industrial areas of Avdiivka have generally held. Instead, the Russians have turned to largely incremental advances in a number of areas, moving further northwest along the railroad, turning the village of Stepove into an apparent grey zone arena, where the recent duel between those two Bradleys and a T-90M took place like something out of Solaris 7, while in the south and southeast, with the broader efforts to encircle Avdiivka so far failing, the Russians have started staging incremental advances into the city's residential areas. What you see here is some imagery, courtesy of the team at Front Intelligence Insight, that may help illustrate part of how those incremental advances are achieved. Defensible positions are flattened by artillery, larger defensible structures are demolished by air-delivered bombs, and eventually the defensive position can be degraded enough that the attackers might be able to move forward. This sort of approach is very slow and materially intensive, but if enough force is consistently applied, it can work. Overall, the situation for Ukrainians in Avdiivka actively defending it is probably very difficult. Reportedly, the Ukrainian artillery is not receiving the shells it needs to fight at its most effective, and for various reasons there are only so many reinforcements available. But for now, overall, Avdiivka is still holding. And as we'll see a little later in the loss statistics, applying this sort of pressure to Avdiivka appears to have cost the Russian forces dearly. Further to the north is Bakhmut, and for much of the war this place had become synonymous with slow, miserable, trench-based positional fighting. And so far over the winter, Bakhmut has remained true to form, consuming combat power and offensive potential for very little movement. The line that had been pushing towards Yahidne has been straightened out, while the villages of Klishivka and Andriivka are still assessed as being in Ukrainian hands, although frankly there's not much of them left. Similarly, in Marinka, which was already basically flattened a year ago, months spent have translated into metres or blocks gained. A wider or more successful push in the area by the Russians might raise some concerns for the Ukrainians, but at the same time the way the fighting here has progressed might give us some clues as to things to come. The ruins of Marinka were eventually taken, but when taking an objective like this requires months or even years of effort in this case, there's probably going to be plenty of time for an opponent to prepare new defensive positions, 1 or 2 terrain features back. And so the fall of Marinka, as we saw with Robotne and Bakhmut, hasn't so far led to some fast-moving deep breakthrough. Instead, the fighting has just lurched forward to the next trench, the next tree line, or the next town. Looking up at Kharkiv, you're again seeing basically positional advances, with the Russians still being a long, long way from being able to anchor a front along the Oskil River, which is where they had originally tried to stabilise during the Kharkiv counteroffensive. In the interest of time, I probably can't pay the fighting here or in any of these fronts their entire due, but it's important to understand that even in the cases where those lines don't move, the reason they have stayed static is often not due to a lack of activity, but rather the result of some often very heavy fighting. More difficult from an analytics perspective has been the fighting around Krinky. This is the tiny Ukrainian bridgehead across the Dnipro River that we've talked about before. And while over the last few months the Russians have been able to squeeze and shrink the bridgehead, they haven't been able to eliminate it. And the result has been a battle that defies easy classification. For the Ukrainian Marines fighting on the left bank of the Dnipro, this battle is probably peak misery. The difficulty in getting heavy equipment across the river means those Marines will almost always be heavily outnumbered and usually operating with small arms and minimal supplies. But the Russian forces on the left bank are probably in a worse logistical position than the Ukrainians on the right. And as we'll see in a moment, numerous failed Russian mechanized attacks to try and eliminate that bridgehead have fallen victim to things like Ukrainian artillery and drones, resulting in significant, visually confirmed equipment losses. And for a while now, that appears to have been the steady state the battle has settled into. The Russians can't completely and permanently evict the Ukrainian bridgeheads, and have taken very significant losses every time they try, but the outnumbered and outgunned Ukrainian Marines in the bridgehead have no real prospect of breaking out. For Ukraine, the battle probably ties down significant Russian forces, drives the allocation of Russian aerospace forces, which have been used very heavily in the region, and allows them to engage in an area where broadly their logistics network is up to the challenge. But it's probably doing so at great cost and uncertainty for the small units holding that bridgehead on the other side of the Dnipro. The overall picture, however, is that while it's still very much ongoing, the Russian offensive hasn't really gone anywhere. There is still a major threat to Avdiivka's supply lines and a number of other locations. But for the most part, the results have been very, very positional. And while Ukraine's gains in Zaporizhzhia were likewise very positional, I'd argue there might be a distinction here. Because theoretically, Ukraine didn't have to go that far to have a major strategic impact. If Tokmak could be taken, the rail link to the west severed, and then some tragic accident befell the Crimean Bridge, then a 20-kilometre advance might have had implications for vast areas of occupied territory. The Russians presumably understood that, which helps explain the massive prepared defences. But in Russia's case, there's no real equivalent jugular to aim at. There might be places they could take which might require other withdrawals along the front, but for the most part, taking a position probably just means preparing to take the next one. And so while Ukraine is obviously still a long way away from its objective of throwing Russian forces out of their country, Russia is likewise still a very long way away from achieving theirs. And if the goal of this offensive has been to get Russia materially closer to those target borders, then it has dramatically failed to do so, at least so far. However, I'd argue that just because the fighting is often a matter of metres, that doesn't mean either that the war is locked in a perpetual stalemate, or that the armies aren't consuming a prodigious amount of equipment and ammunition fighting for those metres. Obviously, material consumption isn't the only factor in how the war is going or will continue to go. The importance of factors like casualties, politics and economics all has to be acknowledged. But at the same time, things like equipment and ammunition availability have obviously been key inputs to the ability of both sides to fight. Infantry supported by IFVs and tanks are going to perform better than infantry fighting alone. A force trying to breach a minefield is going to need breaching equipment, and both of these armies have proven they fight by far their best when adequately supported by artillery and other fires. What losses do then is act as one of the factors that will change how the equipment balance between the two sides changes over time. And Ukraine has relied on a loss disparity acting in their favour. The Ukrainians just generally receive...
I am so sorry, that was so loud.
Fewer artillery pieces and shells.
That's my bad.
An adversary can pull out of storage or manufacture from scratch. So to prevent the Russian material advantage compounding over time or even moving the balance in their favour, what Ukraine probably needs in that sense, as ugly and costly as it is in terms of casualties, is to fight hard battles, probably defensive ones, where they can inflict disproportionate equipment attrition on Russia. Fortunately for Ukraine, costly repeated attacks into prepared defensive positions are a Russian specialty. And when it comes to losing massive amounts of material at shockingly disproportionate loss rates, Valery Gerasimov probably stands proud at the top of the podium. As best as we can tell, visually confirmed armoured vehicle destruction and abandonment rates around Avdiivka have been some of the most shocking.
Oh no, I'm over here. hate this area. Where'd he go? Holy fuck. That's 2 out of the 9, so 7 more. Dope. I needed that. How about I put a fucking mag back in my goddamn gun? Dumbass. I am so overweight, it's not even funny. I shouldn't have shot at him then. Now he knows I'm here. Somewhere. Now he's gonna take position up there somewhere. And just wait for me. I can't. I need to leave. What's gonna be the best way to get out of here? That way. Hey, shooter, how you doing? You missed the fucking outrageous raid. Got a level 52, a level 17, and 9 scavs. I'm working on this task right now. I need 7 more. I need to be on a stim. Milk counts, adrenaline counts. I think vodka might count too. This gun I took off the level 17, although I replaced that fucking stock. The recoil on it was fucking terrible. Nice. So you bought the game? I take it also has PvP in it? I also took a fucking dope ass built up M1 from that level 52. I hit him with a keter. He dumped all his shit in bushes and then moved, and then I killed him and he was naked. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna find his shit. And I found it. Yeah, I was running a keter on the fucking run too. I hate this part. I need to check if any scavs in the field. I don't see any. My stash is overflowing and so is my insurance. I had to stream today because I have to run some of my insurance shit, but then because I took all this shit, I have to run this shit first. I have like no room anywhere. I'm at 1.5 mil in cash too. So I take it the weekend has the open beta is free and it's only a playtest for the PvP for now. Oh, really? How long is this free open beta going for? You should have said that when you linked it. Because I could have fucking downloaded it by now. But I thought you have to buy it. And I don't have any extra cash. Until the 16th? I might have to put it to download tonight when I go to bed. Can you remind me? Mitä Tara haluu? Fuck. Tara's asking out. Tara täytyy odottaa. Pisuakka odottaa. Not while I'm in raid. I need to let her out. I'm a little nervous. Need to get eyes on scavs, and then I need to take a stim. That was a player scav. I should have had a stim. What you got? That armor would be worth taking, but I'm not lugging that shit around. What ammo? Don't care. Damn, there goes a scav. Fucking bush. Where be all the scavs? You already have 10 hours in the game? Nice. I take it you like it then? Or you're just trying to get as much in while you can while it's free? Fuck, he got me. Damn it. Well, that one didn't go as well as the last one. Damn. He went left, not right. Well, server issues, open beta. It's not like they've like invested in their infrastructure like that yet. God damn it. Was it a playa? Was it a scav? Was it a playa scav? Smoggy. I think that was a Finn. Maybe. $10.98. Which dude was that? That was the dude out the window. He actually died. Damn. Yeah, but we have to sometimes wait 15 minutes or more just to get connected to the servers. Yeah, but like I said, if they're in open beta right now, they haven't sold shit, blah blah blah. They're not gonna like put a shit ton into their infrastructure. It's already 5. I only had one fried egg. I think I'm gonna turn on my oven for a little bit of sausage and potato salad. Look at this, shooter. This is all of it is full. All of it. All of it is fucking full. And then we go here, and all of it is fucking full. At least I got my guns out already. I think we're going to run that. We're going to run that. And we're going to run that. We'll even take that. I need to run all of this shit. Let me go. Oh, I can't repair it. Damn it. I think I'm going to run that. Let me go let Tara and Tuiku out so that they can do their shit while I kit up. And then I can let them back in after I've kitted up. Be right back. Alright. I did make a couple little rooms in those vests. Shit. Why isn't it letting that go in here? Really? Got a little bit of room for shit. Like, very little bit of room for shit. Hey, let me go let the dogs out real quick so that they can do their thing. Be right back. Sheesh what? What sheesh? Be right back. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That you have everything full, lol. Yeah, and then look, 1.4 mil, 1,100 euros, $4,500. Oh, dope. That works, but you know what? We still need refills. That's our refill. Then we're gonna need stims. Do I have any backpacks in insurance? No. Do you need grenade kills? Pardon me. Pardon me. Do I have any milk anywhere? Does this have a stim effect? I don't know if this counts. Do I have any milk? Milk counts, adrenaline counts. I just checked that, dumbass.
Shockingly one-sided of the war. The Ukrainians have, of course, lost some particularly valuable pieces of equipment, but as at time of recording, the Russians have burned through more than 150 main battle tanks and are pushing towards 300 armoured fighting vehicles, and that's after I removed all damaged targets from this data set because I often consider the category too ambiguous.
I have a few grenade launchers too.
Every American Bradley and Swedish
Is
CV-90
this
the
a stim?
Ukrainians are believed to have received so far during this entire war, it would not be enough to cover Russia's visually confirmed AFE losses.
That might be a
just
stim.
since October, just around
We're gonna have to
Avdiivka.
test.
The situation in the Krinky zone has been broadly similar, but much more polarized by category. Here, Russian and Ukrainian artillery losses, excluding MLRS systems, are much closer together, with many of those Ukrainian losses being as a result of Lancet strikes or the use of glide bombs. But given that Ukraine hasn't been able to push armoured vehicles across the river, while Russia has thrown several armoured assaults against the Ukrainian bridgehead, the battle has given us some of the most shockingly uneven MBT and AFE loss ratios of the entire war. For tanks, 1 to 18, for armoured fighting vehicles, 1 to 51, and in some categories, a healthy divide by zero error. Now, of course, even though a lot of work goes into these visually confirmed loss databases, and often they're some of the best available information that we have, I always like to test that sort of data against Russian
Moronaki, mitä
to do so. In the case of Krinky, we do actually have something that might serve for a sort of apples-to-apples comparison. Lost Armor is a Russian website publishing claimed Ukrainian losses, and they have a list of claimed Ukrainian artillery losses supporting the bridgehead at Krinky, complete with claimed visual evidence. Now, at first, it seems like there's a great clash between this data and the data I just showed you. The first set had 10 Ukrainian artillery losses. The
How you doing?
Has 51.
How
Part
you
of that disparity
doing?
can probably be solved straight away. The Lost Armor database includes both damaged and destroyed equipment, whereas that 10 from before was just destroyed equipment. Revise it up to damaged as well, and we instead have 21 versus 51. Closer, but still very much not in agreement. My second thought was because there's no universal set of rules on how you should classify a particular set of
Putin
losses,
loses another
it might be
commander
that the
as
Lost Armor
General
set was
Alexander
overclaiming in some way, or at
Tatarenko
least
among
including
10
material that
dead
wouldn't
in
be
Storm
included
Shadow
according to the
missile
evidentiary
strike.
standards of the first
Nice.
set. So, both because accuracy matters, and because who wouldn't want to spend a chunk of their afternoon auditing drone footage, I ran through a sample of the list, starting top to bottom, something you can also do if you're so inclined. And, yeah, there were a couple of things that stood out.
I don't know about my
Firstly,
new medicine.
duplicate footage.
I think it makes
With
me
this
feel
video of
kind of
Bastard
dumb.
Strike, for example, being marked both against a 2S1 entry at one set
Just
of
got my
coordinates
PC
and
back
an M109
together.
entry at another
Had
set.
window
This
replacement
video
in
is
my
used both
apartment.
for
I
a
had to
Bastard
move loads
Strike
of
on an
stuff
unknown
because of it,
self-propelled
and
gun,
then
which
I
is what it
installed the
appears to be
RX
labeled as,
to my...
but is also included 2 entries later as evidence for a glide bomb strike against
Nice.
Shoshana 2. Which is
Progress.
interesting because I would have expected more visual difference in blast effect between a 3 to 5 kilo warhead and a 500 plus kilogram bomb.
The
Now, to be fair, it's
volume
entirely
is
possible
wrong.
this is
Sorry,
just an
1
uploading
second.
error, that there is an accurate video somewhere and it just hasn't been uploaded or
There,
listed
that
correctly.
should be better.
But hopefully you understand when I say I don't think I can count a loss as evidenced. If the evidence basically amounts to, trust me bro, I promise I have the video, I
Trust
just
me,
left it at
brah.
home. If at any point these listings are amended, I'll be happy to take another look. But in calling out the duplicates thing, I've sort of skipped over one of the other more common issues. And because I've shown off a couple of examples...
So
of the
what's
first
everybody
10, I'll
doing
jump
this
to the
Friday
sample of the
night
final 5
or
that I
evening?
looked at.
Chilling
The
at
fact that, at
home,
least to
going
my viewing,
out?
a lot of these videos seem very, very
What's up?
inconclusive and wouldn't, or at least shouldn't, make
I'm
it into a
chilling at
database like
home,
this. Make no
which
mistake, on
probably
this list, there are
surprises
some
nobody.
very clear, very crisp entries that clearly show what they claim to show. But there are also heaps of cases, particularly when it comes to glide bombing attacks, where seriously I have seen more convincing footage of Bigfoot. To avoid any
Wow.
accusations of cherry picking, these are literally the first 2 entries I looked at the bottom of the list. And in one case, that blue circle is original. In the second, I've added my own just for clarity. Because clearly and unambiguously, what you're looking at here, just in case you couldn't figure it out, is the destruction of a self-propelled gun in the top image and the destruction of another artillery target on the bottom. A cynic might suggest that given Russian glide bombs are not the most accurate systems on the planet, that one editing technique might simply be to take a video, circle an area where you know the bomb is going to land, show the bomb landing where you circled, and declare victory. Because anyone on the planet can be a perfectly accurate marksman if you get to call your shot after you've already made it.
Wow.
Now, obviously, it is possible that in amongst those blobs and smudges, there is a target that is being destroyed. But if you're going to set a standard for what counts as visual confirmation, if a Ukrainian source submitted a close-up like this one, I'd hope that in the absence of other evidence, it would be classified as inconclusive and we'd all move on. Which brings us to the next entry and another war footage favourite, this being the ambiguous edit or time skip. This video includes some good footage of what appears to be a Ukrainian armoured vehicle entering the right-hand side of this building. Then you get a cut forward to video of a bomb appearing to impact the left-hand side of the building, and a second strike.
How many more scavs do I need with the stim? Oh, we're here. Shit. Somebody's gonna come this way. And scavs should spawn here. Why does everything sound so quiet again? Oh, because my ears are clogged. Pressure differential. There we go. That's a bit better. Are you kidding me? That's a jump? Oh, I thought that was a weapons crate up there. Whoops. I don't think anybody's coming this back way. Somebody's over there, though. Oh, it was a scav. Shit, I needed a stim. God damn it. Whoa. Was that on me, or was that just a fucked up ricochet? I needed to kill him while stimmed, god damn it. Did I just hear somebody again? Find scavs, drink the milk. Oh yeah, now it's loud. Wow, my ears were really clogged from a pressure differential. Fucking pain med just wore off. Where's all the fucking scavs? When I don't need scavs, they fucking always fucking gang up on me in this area. Fucking coming from every fucking direction. And now that I need scavs, one. Somebody killed that scav. Or is that a scav? I think it's a scav. When you need scavs, you can't fucking find scavs. And when you don't need scavs, they fucking gangbang you. It's a little bright, isn't it? Oh, and the dogs are still outside. Fuck it, they can have an extended outside period. That had no stim effect. Do I go to that rock and peek that way? No. Wait, let me read. Sorry. I went out in... Fuck. I'm also fucking tired. Woke up at 4:30. Ugh. Went out in the morning. Went to Anastusson Swimming Hall and walked like 10 kilometers. Damn. I also voted yesterday. Also went to lunch with a friend. We had fish and chips. Nice. Socializing is always good. And fish and chips, if done right with some fucking vinegar and some tartar sauce. And a few job applications, but I'm not going to do it today. Dope. Sounds like you already did enough for today. I need to let the dogs in. Tara's barking. 1 sec. Please, nobody kill me! You guys want to hear something funny? The new med I got is for schizophrenia and bipolar. Well, schizophrenia they never thought I had. And bipolar they were considering, but we ruled it out yesterday. But they said that this medicine, if I take it in the evenings, it can help me calm, slow down, and sleep better. So that's why they gave it to me. So I have that, and then I have my anti-anxiety med. But when I got home and I read that it's for schizophrenia, I was like, oh, really? And now I just dumped them all over the place. It's called olanzapine. So I am now on oxapam and olanzapine. But, like, last night, I woke up, I don't know how many times for like a minute and then fell back asleep. And the dreams I had, let's see if we can flush them out. I think he's got to be somewhere behind that rock. Was he trying to do that fucking shit Jaeger task? Where did he go? There's no way that grenade killed him. Yeah, some fucking really weird dreams. Like the weirdest I've had in fucking forever. Where the fuck did this guy go? I know I heard his ass over here somewhere. Oh fuck, my pain med ran out. I think my grenade did kill him. Yeah! Level 6. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna take any of his shit. That was one of my grenade kills too now. Poor guy. No, I don't feel bad. Maybe a little. No, I don't. He wouldn't feel bad if he killed me. What was his name? Valianti? That's a play on Valiant. I think that was a Finn. Does this give me a sim? I do think it gives me sim. Oh, it's just a painkiller. So, no, it doesn't give me sim. But that will. I need that fucking scav. So that's one. I want to remag before I cross. The oven should now be preheated. Yep. I have one stim left. No, fuck you. God damn it. Fuck, I missed my chance. God damn it. Wrong fucking buttons. Dropped him. Nice fucking shot. Did you see that shot? Did you see that shot? His arm was sticking out from behind the tree. Somebody should have clipped that shot. We're still on stims, good. Any scavs? Fuck. Pain meds just ran out. I don't know if that one counted. Did my fucking stim run out? I need 4 more. I don't want to take that adrenaline until I know that there's fucking scavs around. Somebody's around. I also know there's a sniper somewhere. There. I love that they worked the fucking recoil so that burst shots don't fucking just go all over the place. What? Oh, man. Get rid of that. God damn. I should, God damn it. I should check those scavs for knives. That's one of my dailies. Oh, he's got ammo for me. Oh shit. Quicker, 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 quicker. That's over there. Shit. My dude is exhausted. How? Oh, and I'm out of stims. So now it's time to go. None of the kills will count. So it's time to reset. Yep, it's time to fucking go. That went well. I'm kinda hungry. I have a pizza. I might eat the pizza. I was gonna make sausage and potato salad again for like the 100th time in 2 weeks. Cause of ADHD, yeah, I can eat the same shit for like months. But I bought that really fucking good Rosso vacuum packed fucking pizza and it only needs 6 minutes in the oven. I think I want a fucking pizza. It's a little early though. And I need to pee really bad. What? More? It's okay. Does the heater scare you? The heater does scare you. Tuitan, it's okay. Yeah, yeah, it's okay. Tuitan, tui. Tara, Tara comes from the other room. Cause Tara gets jealous. Tara gets jealous. She gets very jealous. More. Onxenanaika? Oh, are you guys hungry? Is that the deal? It's a little early for Nanna. It's a little early for Nanna still. God damn, man. We need 2 more. We need 2 more fucking scavs. That's it for those knives. Now we need 5 more of the other one. Got this fucking gazelle off a dude too. I think we might even just take that fucking Mosin back in with us. Wow, those used to fucking be worth a lot. Pardon me. Pardon me. People like their oat flakes. I need to get my work. I need to upgrade my workbench. So that oops, that's gonna need food. We need food. We need milk. Damn you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Thank you. We need milk. Might not take that. We're gonna sell that. I should have an adrenaline somewhere. There. Traders, therapist, deal, deal, and deal. Whoops. 7, 6. Were there other woods tasks I had? I still haven't been on street. That's finding those 60 round mags. 1 hour 34 minutes. I don't know if I have time. This one's not happening. I think we're gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna do another raid. No, we don't need to ensure that. I need to pee.
Did you have some? Sounds good. What your dogs eat? Just regular kibble. But I mean they get treats, and it's gluten free because Tara has allergies. But like, I have one pack of ground meat in the freezer that I had forgotten about. And it's like a year old now. So it's not going to be the most appetizing. So one of these days I'm going to fry that up, boil some rice, and just some frozen vegetables. And they'll get to eat that for a couple days. I wonder if you heard any of that. Kohtan Anna. Ei vielä. Täytyy odottaa.
You did hear. Dope. More. Oh, and the other thing is, when I eat pizza, like, I have to have Coca-Cola in cans. The taste combination is the best. And not in a bottle, in cans. And I have Coca-Cola in cans. And I have that pizza. And I'm gonna I'm gonna enjoy that shit. More. Oh, yeah, that's a good ear rub. Oh, you have eye snot again. 1 second. There we go. That's the eye snot gone. And we cut your nails yesterday. Tara, when we went to go see the two friends that were ice fishing, we were throwing sticks on the ice, and Tara was doing good, and she didn't slip once, but then when we started walking home, she did, like, her two rear legs did the splits, and she yelped the loudest I've heard. I think she might be starting to get hip dysplasia in her right rear hip. It's okay. It's okay. Tuy kumur. Tuitan. Why are you so afraid of the heater, dum-dum? It's not even on right now. Yeah. And I'm not going outside to get wood today. I'm too fucking lazy. Plus with the stream on, blah blah blah. Electric rate right now is low enough that I can just have the electric battery on. Electric radiator, not battery. Although in the States we do call them, maybe I'm remembering wrong. Guilty to that. No, more. Both of my little girls are sitting right next to me. Oh, you guys are so attention hungry right now. So attention hungry right now. Or it's just because you're hungry and you want the food attention. After this raid, I'm going to give you your food and put my pizza in the oven. Which means we're going to have to do scav raid. Which means whatever the scav picks up is being sold straight to fence because I have no room to claim it. We need 2 more scavs for this goddamn task. Where are we? Oh, we're here. we're near where we were last time. I'm pretty sure. That's where that building is where I killed that one scav the beginning of last grade. I hear somebody. I heard somebody creeping. Right over there. Somewhere. They heard me running. So they know somebody's near. There. Oh, that's a scav. Oh shit, it saw me. Where did it go? Where in the ever-loving fuck did it go? Where did it go? I'm gonna lose this adrenaline. There. That was both of them. That was both of them. Now I don't need to worry about that fucking sim shit anymore. But there's a PMC back there too. Task fucking done. I love how they lined up like that for me. That was kind of dope. Give pizza to dogs and I eat kibble? Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Give me a Scooby snack. Task done. We could get the fuck out now. So actually, just take it calm now. Everything's fucking done. Wait, do I need to exfil for this task? Nope, don't even need to fucking exfil. That sounds like a big gun. There's a lot of fucking people around right now, it sounds like. It sounded like it was coming from over there. Yeah, I know I always take the same path, but it's the path I'm most comfortable with. Maybe I switch it up. Maybe go this way and around the back of the sawmill. And nobody clipped that fucking Mosin kill on that dude that was just barely showing from behind the tree. Nobody's clipped any of my kills. You guys suck. No, I'm just playing. See. I don't know. Me going up here, I'm gonna die. I don't want to do that. I want to go play in those woods. That's where I like to play. Oh shit. Where? He must have just got to the ridge line where I came from. Damn it. Oh well, task done. We don't need to go back. We got other shit to do now. And I don't need to worry about fucking being stimmed up when I kill shit now. Still winning for the day. It kind of is, but there's 5 of you here, and if I start doing pizza time now, everybody's gonna leave. That's why streaming sucks, and that's why people who stream never fucking drink enough, or eat enough, or whatever. Cause, lel. Oh, I also have Longero. So after I eat, I can have a couple of fucking alcoholic drinks tonight. Yeah, there is. I'll tell you who's here. At least lurking. Crab Meats, Shooter, Ultraviolet, Lord Nucky, and there's one more in the normal user list, but there's so many bots in there, I don't know who is the actual person. But you are the only one talking right now. Tarkov Yeti. Let's see. Level 36. Yeah, look at... Yeah. That's a SVDS, isn't it? And that's a really big fucking scope. I have a feeling this guy does nothing but snipe. Yeah, look. SVDS Mark 16 with a ×3. That's the Monstro. That's the Spectre sight, right? Oh, it shows you the build. Yeah, look, Spectre. God, I'm actually compact monstrum. See, look, I'm good. Now, is this the Voodoo? No, that's That's even more magnification than the voodoo. Head nape. He got me in the nape of the head while running. And 993. Yeah. They are lurking or something. Yeah, they are lurking. I don't mind lurkers. It all helps the algorithm. And that fifth person who was in the list left. They probably didn't like me knowing. Okay, wait, can we see who it was? Vimmersy, Tarzai, Zuko. Nope, those guys are still. I don't know who it was. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna go put the pizza in the oven. But that pizza only needs like 6 minutes, so that means we're gonna be eating, which means let me see if I can find something on YouTube that we're gonna watch while I eat. There's some Ukraine updates. Ooh, Ward Carroll, ugliest 10 ugliest military aircraft. He's an ex-Tomcat Rio. Yep, okay, I found some shit we can watch while I eat. Oh, sub brief. Are we finally going to make peace with the Chinese? I doubt it. Anybody who thinks that China couldn't go for Taiwan is crazy because they're supporting Russia right now. Okay, we got a playlist now that we can watch. Hey, see, Naki, see, you're not the only one. See, you're here. I'm here too. Not really. I know you're making sausages. Copy. Paperwork is the bane of my fucking existence. I hate that shit. Like when I was running my own truck, that was the thing that I hated the fucking most. Ooh, metabolism plus 2 levels. BT ammo. Does that mean that it's now fucking unlocked for me? I'm getting Warmageddon for the 5.5645. Getting RIP ammo for the shotgun. 32,000 rubles, 5,900 XP, Jaeger rep up 0.02. Boom. That works for me. Guess what I'm about to... You'll leave the phone logged? Thank you. Don't have too much fun. Actually, I've been having quite a bit of fun today. It's gone really well. I've killed a bunch of people. Well, I like killing people in this game. That's dope. That's dope. That BT ammo is fucking dope. Although I bought a milk that I did not need to buy. We're gonna claim all this shit right now because I don't want to forget about it. And I'm about Nucky. Be careful, Ultra. Nucky's kind of trolly. Me and Nucky met when I was playing Elite Dangerous, which is a spaceship game in VR, and he killed me. And then he came to my stream and he trolled me. And it's amazing that we actually became friends because that back then I was a really ragey motherfucker. But guess what I'm gonna do, Ultraviolet? I have this pizza that's the best store-bought pizza that I've ever run across. It's not frozen. It's from a restaurant here in Finland, and it's vacuum packed, and it's in the refrigerated section, and it only needs to be in the oven for 6 minutes. And I even bought Coca-Cola in a can because the only way I like pizza is Coca-Cola in a can. The taste combination, mwah. And it has to be in a can. It cannot be in a bottle. So I'm gonna go put that in the oven, give the dogs food, and then I actually have a playlist already on YouTube that we can watch while I eat. But we might do a scav raid while the pizza is in the oven. Naki, everything is full. And then insurance is still full. Okay, I did take all my guns out of insurance. Alright, now I took all my guns out of insurance, but we gotta run some of this shit. I don't know if I want to run this anymore, though. Every time I run it, I just fucking die, and it's level 3. These two are level 4, kind of beat up. This is also level 4. And now you can change these armor plates in them. I don't know, I kind of think I'm getting rid of that. How much until level 27? Jesus, 55,000? And operational tasks, exit customs twice. But that expires in an hour and 10 minutes. I'm not getting any of those dailies done. I accepted them yesterday, but I haven't played at all. Oh, I have it on the wrong fucking scene. Yeah. I'm not gonna get any of these dailies done. I already know it. Grr. How many PMCs have I killed? 50. 2 that were over level 50. 17 between 30 and 50. 16 between 11 and 30. And 15 below 10. Total easy tasks 10. Total medium tasks 10. Total hard tasks 3. Max streak of completed tasks is 3. Total tasks failed, those are the dailies. Yeah, it's not too bad. We'll go to interchange real quick. I'm gonna put it to load in.
Actually, I decided I'm not putting the pizza in while I'm doing the scav raid because it's only 6 minutes for the pizza and the oven's already preheated. If I put it in now, I'll burn the pizza like last time.
So we're gonna do this scav raid, and then we're gonna go into YouTube, and I'm gonna put the pizza in, and blah blah blah. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Blah blah blah. I hear airdrop coming in. We're about to die. This is about to be quick. And now, oh well, it's still going to be dropping out of the sky for a second. Nope, we don't need that knife. We need the metal black knife. Well, both knives are metal, but we need the black one. Whoops, that was behind me. Is it still dropping anywhere? I don't see it. Fuck. Could it have dropped on the road over there? It could have. I mean, it could have dropped anywhere. Fuck. Wait, but why do I don't have room? Actually, I do have some room. Because I made room. Could I maybe be right on my hunch on where it dropped? I don't think so. But we'll find out. Wait, what do you mean how to burn 800 calories in 10 minutes? Tell me. I don't get it. Oh, we do want that though. I wonder if that scav that was running around with me just died. Those are worth a lot, and I actually need it for my task. That's why they're worth a lot, because everybody needs it for their tasks. My god. That's a lot of food. See, I was thinking maybe it dropped over here. I don't see no smoke, though. Maybe it dropped in front of that sign where it dropped the one time when it disappeared on me. Yep, there's somebody over there. And it did drop right where I was thinking. Now, is that a PMC? How? How did that shit go through the fucking thing? Oh, just burn the pizza, lel, yeah. Oh-ho. Oh-ho. No. So, you just shared your good luck with me. Oh-ho. Oh-ho. Oho. Kiitos, Nakki. Ja kiitos Kallen puolesta. En mä edes tiedä, onks Kalle tietoinen. Oho. Kalle plays a lot of Arma and Operation Front or whatever that SWAT game is. He's one of Alte Yoka's friends. He comes and lurks every once in a while. Wow. No. On behalf of me and Kalle, thank you. Now Kalle won't have to sit through any commercials. Bimuzia. It was a player scav. But last time I saw a player scav. I mean, last time I got an airdrop, a player scav just fucking dropped me too. Well, that's like one of the only. I don't kill scavs usually, but I wanted that airdrop. Well, and did you see how slow he was moving? He was fucking. He was full up with loot. No, Nakki. Kiitos. I think that's the first gifted sub in this channel in like 4 or 5 years. I might actually, like in a month, get a payout from Twitch. Well, they dropped their requirement. It used to be you had to have, what was it, 100 built up before they paid out but they dropped it to 50. So every time you've made 50, they pay you out at the end of the month. We do have some tasks to do. We need to do this interchange one. I think that might be the next one we're working on. We have the shoreline one. We have this customs one. And when I do that customs one, we really should be wearing the scav vest, the Ushanka, and using a shotgun. I need to find a military battery. I think the only place you find those is on reserve, though. I need to run scavs on reserve. Okay, that one's not actually as bad as this one. But I'm gonna have to go to them too. I haven't done any of these Streets of Tarkov ones yet. I haven't gone to streets yet once. Oi, hei Nakki, kiitos taas. Oli mukavaa, että pistäydyit. Ja enjoy your beer and your food. We are now going to watch a little bit of YouTube. I'm gonna go put that fucking pizza in the oven. Be right back. Actually, I started thinking differently. I don't want to use other people's content because I'm eating. I also don't want to rush my eating. So I think I'm going to eat and I'm going to be back after dinner. That's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to put it as text too so people who are lurking will notice. That's what I think I'm going to do. And we're going to put it in Discord too. So that's what I think we're gonna do. Actually, we're gonna see if Yoka or somebody is streaming real quick. One second. One second. One second. I don't even know who this guy. This is somebody I think that I've stumbled on because of Shooter.
Podemos investigar por aquí un poquito, que esta zona no la tenemos muy investigada.
And Shooter's in here, so you know what?
Nunca sabes qué te vas a encontrar en este juego.
We're gonna do it.
Vale, pues por ahí es.
Alright, I'll be back after dinner. I'll be back after dinner.
Y aquí hay mogollón de enemigos también. No los podemos hacer. Total, es experiencia, o sea que... GrumpyFinn, muchas gracias por la raid, bienvenidos. Estamos aquí jugando Shrouded, que vamos por el capítulo 4. Y estamos buscando ahora mismo sal. I was low. I had more viewers. At least. No hablo español. No hablo mucho inglés, te digo. Es una pena, tío. Pero no soy muy bueno yo en inglés. ¿Qué pasa aquí? ¿Por qué está esto dando problemas? El OBS últimamente me da fallos, tío.